The temperature dropped to 20 degrees that Christmas Eve as I huddled in my car, parked in my sister Diana's driveway. Through the frosted windows of her mansion, I could see the warm glow of Christmas lights and hear muffled laughter from the party inside. A party I wasn't welcome to join. The guest rooms are for important people, Diana had laughed earlier, her perfect makeup never cracking as she delivered the cruel words. You can sleep in your car if you want to stay for Christmas morning. After all, that's probably what you're used to. If only she knew that the cheap car I drove to family events was just for show. That my real car collection, including 3 Ferraris and a custom Rolls-Royce, sat in a climate-controlled garage across town. But let me back up and explain how I ended up spending Christmas Eve in a car outside my sister's house. 7 years ago, I was just another MBA graduate with big dreams. Diana, 2 years older, had already established herself as a rising star at Morton Financial, one of the country's largest investment firms. Our parents never tired of bragging about her corner office and 6-figure salary. While Diana climbed the corporate ladder, I saw an opportunity everyone else missed. The financial technology sector was about to explode, but traditional banks were too slow to adapt. I took my savings, borrowed money from anyone who would lend it, and launched FinCore Technologies. The first 2 years were brutal. I worked 100-hour weeks, slept on an office couch, and lived on ramen noodles. Diana loved to point out my poor life choices at family gatherings. Still playing entrepreneur? She would smirk. You know, there's an entry-level position open in my department. I could put in a word. I declined every time, which only reinforced their belief that I was a failure. What they didn't know was that FinCore had developed revolutionary banking software that would transform the industry. The first major contract came in year 3. A small regional bank implemented our system and saw their digital transaction efficiency increase by 300%. Word spread quickly in the banking world. By year 4, we had contracts with 3 of the top 10 banks in the country. But I kept quiet about my success. I maintained my modest apartment, drove an old Honda, and let my family believe I was struggling. Meanwhile, FinCore grew into a technology giant, with offices in 12 countries and a client list that included the biggest names in global finance. I took the company public last year. The IPO made headlines in the financial world. FinCore Technologies, the future of banking, splashed across the Wall Street Journal. My personal wealth shot past $400 million overnight. Still, I kept up the facade with my family. Not out of shame, but because I was curious to see how long they would continue treating me with condescension. Diana, especially, seemed to take pleasure in pointing out the growing gap between our lifestyles. Which brings us back to Christmas Eve. Diana had recently taken a new position at Blackwater Capital, a prestigious investment firm. She'd spent weeks bragging about how her new boss, Elizabeth Chen, was a titan of industry, and how this job would finally put her in the big leagues. What my dear sister didn't know was that Blackwater Capital was one of FinCore's largest clients. In fact, I had personally approved their contract just last month. Elizabeth Chen and I had weekly calls discussing the implementation of our software across their global operations. I checked my phone's weather app. 18 degrees now. In the mansion's warm glow, I could see Diana showing off her designer Christmas decorations to her guests. Our parents were there, naturally, proudly watching their successful daughter play hostess. A text lit up my phone screen. Everything set for tomorrow morning's surprise visit? Elizabeth. I smiled, typing back, yes. Looking forward to it. Elizabeth had been furious when she learned how Diana had treated me. We need to teach her a lesson about making assumptions, she had said during our last meeting. Together we had planned tomorrow's little revelation. Another text came through, this time from my COO. Forbes article is scheduled to go live at 7 a.m. tomorrow. FinCore CEO named Businesswoman of the Year. Complete with that photo from the charity gala. Perfect timing. Diana always checked business news with her morning coffee. I reclined my car seat, wrapping myself in the emergency blanket I kept in the trunk. The irony wasn't lost on me, a woman worth hundreds of millions, choosing to sleep in her car just to make a point. Through the window, I watched Diana lead a house tour for her guests. She was showing off the imported marble countertops in her kitchen, countertops that probably cost more than what she thought I made in a year. My actual annual income could buy her entire house 100 times over. Around midnight, the party wound down. Guests departed in luxury cars. My parents retired to one of the important people guest rooms. and the lights in the mansion dimmed. Diana's silhouette appeared at an upstairs window. She looked down at my car and shook her head, probably congratulating herself on her superior life choices. If she only knew that tomorrow morning her carefully constructed world of superiority would shatter like fine crystal. I checked my watch. 12:01 a.m. Technically Christmas morning. In 6 hours and 59 minutes, the Forbes article would go live. In 8 hours, Elizabeth Chen would arrive for a surprise inspection of her new employee's holiday party. And my sister would finally learn that the person she forced to sleep in a car was actually her company's most important client. I drifted off to sleep with a smile, imagining the look on Diana's face when her perfect Christmas morning turned into a lesson in humility. The last thing I saw before closing my eyes was my own reflection in the car window. The secret CEO who chose to spend Christmas Eve in a car just to make a point. Sometimes the best gifts aren't wrapped in shiny paper. Sometimes they come in the form of long-awaited revelations. I woke up at 6:45 a.m. to frost coating the car windows and my phone buzzing with messages. Diana was already up, preparing for her casual Christmas morning breakfast with her new boss. Through the kitchen window, I could see her orchestrating her staff like a conductor, making sure everything was perfect. At exactly 7 a.m., my phone pinged with a notification. Forbes article now live. FinCorp CEO named Businesswoman of the Year. I watched Diana settle at her breakfast nook with her morning coffee, pulling up her daily business news feed on her tablet. The shattering of a coffee cup against imported tile echoed through the house. This can't be right, I heard her stammer to our mother who had just walked into the kitchen. Look at this article. The woman in this photo. It looks like. Like who, dear? Our mother asked, peering at the screen. Like Madison. But it can't be. This is the CEO of FinCorp Technologies. She's worth hundreds of millions. I decided this was my cue. I stepped out of my car, smoothing my cheap clothes, and walked to the front door. Diana yanked it open before I could knock, her face pale. Explain this. She thrust the tablet at me, showing my photo at the recent Tech Innovation Awards. I was wearing a Chanel gown worth more than her car, accepting the award for Most Influential Tech CEO Under 40. Explain what? I asked innocently. It looks like a standard business article. This woman. She looks exactly like you. But she's the CEO of FinCorp Technologies? I finished for her. Founder of the company that just signed a $100 million contract with Blackwater Capital? The person who personally approved the implementation of new banking software across all of Elizabeth Chen's global operations. Diana's legs gave out and she sank into a nearby chair. Our mother grabbed the tablet, her hands shaking as she scrolled through the article. This is impossible, she whispered. You're just a struggling entrepreneur. You sleep in your car. I slept in my car last night because I wanted to, I corrected her. Just like I drive that Honda to family events because I choose to. Would you like to see what I really drive? I pulled out my phone and showed them photos of my actual car collection. Diana's face grew even paler. But your apartment, your clothes. All part of an experiment, I said calmly. I wanted to see how long my own family would continue looking down on me, even as I built one of the most successful tech companies in the world. The doorbell rang. Diana jumped up, suddenly remembering her boss was coming. Oh God, Elizabeth is here. Mom, get Madison out of sight. We can't have. Good morning, Miss Chen, I called out as Diana opened the door. Right on schedule. Elizabeth Chen, CEO of Blackwater Capital and supposedly Diana's new boss, broke into a warm smile. Madison, Merry Christmas. I hope you weren't too cold in your car last night. Diana's jaw dropped. You know each other? Know each other? Elizabeth laughed. Madison is one of our most important technology partners. We have weekly meetings discussing the implementation of FinCorp's software across our global operations. Weekly meetings? Diana's voice was barely a whisper. In fact, Elizabeth continued, that's partly why I accepted this position. When Madison mentioned her sister had joined our firm, I wanted to personally oversee this division. Though I must say I'm rather disappointed in what I've observed. Disappointed? Diana squeaked. Yes. You see, last night's behavior was quite illuminating. Making your own sister, who happens to be one of our company's most valuable partners, sleep in her car? Not exactly the judgment we look for in our executives. I watched my sister's perfect world crumble in real time. Every assumption she'd made, every condescending remark, every moment of superiority, all of it was shattering like her coffee cup on the imported tiles. I didn't know, she stammered. Clearly, Elizabeth's voice was arctic. Madison, shall we discuss the next phase of our software implementation over breakfast? I hear there's a lovely dining room here, unless that's only for important people? Our mother, who had been frozen in shock this whole time, finally found her voice. Madison, sweetheart, we had no idea. All this time, I cut in. I was building an empire while you were bragging about Diana's corner office. I revolutionized banking technology while you were showing off her company car. I became a billionaire while you were apologizing for my poor life choices. Billionaire. Diana choked. Oh, did I forget to mention? Elizabeth smiled. Fincor's stock price jumped again yesterday. Madison's net worth just crossed the $1 billion mark. Congratulations, by the way. I sat down at Diana's perfectly set breakfast table, noting how the imported tablecloth probably cost less than my watch. Thank you, Elizabeth. Shall we discuss the Asia-Pacific expansion over these lovely pastries? Diana can serve us coffee, assuming she has any cups left. The next hour was surreal. My sister, still in shock, mechanically poured coffee while Elizabeth and I discussed multi-million-dollar technology implementations. Our mother sat in the corner, alternating between staring at me and anxiously checking the Forbes article on her tablet. Finally, Elizabeth checked her watch. I should get going. Madison will finalize the details at next week's board meeting. Oh, and Diana, he turned to my sister. Take some time to think about whether Blackwater Capital is the right fit for you. We value good judgment in our executives. After Elizabeth left, silence fell over the house. Diana stood by the window, watching her boss's car disappear down the driveway. Why? She finally asked, turning to me. Why keep this secret? Why let us treat you like someone who deserves to sleep in their car on Christmas Eve? I finished for her. Because I wanted to see who you really were. Both of you. And now I know. I stood up, smoothing my cheap clothes. I should go. I have a charity gala to host tonight. You might have read about it. It's the one where I'm donating $10 million to education in underprivileged communities. Madison, wait. Our mother stepped forward. Please. We can fix this. Fix what? I asked quietly. Fix the fact that you valued status over kindness? That you treated your own daughter like she was worthless because she didn't fit your definition of success. I walked to the door, then turned back. Oh, and Diana, about your job at Blackwater. I wouldn't worry too much about Elizabeth's comments. I'm sure you can find another position. Though you might want to update your resume. Made the CEO of our largest technology partner sleep in her car probably won't look good to future employers. The drive home in my cheap Honda was peaceful. I had a text from Elizabeth. Mission accomplished. Their faces were priceless. Later that evening, as I prepared for the charity gala in my penthouse apartment, I received dozens of messages from family members who had seen the Forbes article. Suddenly, everyone wanted to reconnect with their successful relative. I ignored them all. Instead, I focused on the speech I would give at the gala about the importance of judging people by their character, not their apparent status. About how true worth isn't measured by the car you drive or the clothes you wear, but by how you treat others. And as I stood at the podium that night, addressing a room full of genuine business leaders and philanthropists, I thought about Diana and our mother, probably still sitting in that mansion, realizing that the daughter they'd looked down on for so long was now someone they had to look up to. Sometimes the best revenge isn't showing people how successful you are. It's letting them discover it themselves right after they've shown you exactly who they really are. The next morning, I woke up to a final text from Diana. I'm sorry. I understand if you never forgive me. I clicked my phone off without responding and looked out my penthouse window at the city below. In the distance, I could see the Fincor Technologies building, its logo shining in the morning sun. Success, I had learned, wasn't about proving others wrong. It was about proving yourself right. And sometimes, the best way to do that is to let people underestimate you until the perfect moment of revelation. I never did respond to Diana's text. Some apologies come too late and some lessons are best learned in silence. Besides, I was too busy running my billion-dollar company to worry about what my family thought anymore. They could keep their guest rooms. I had an empire to run.
I stared at the cream-colored envelope in my hands, my 25th birthday dinner invitation, the one I'd spent weeks planning, now crushed and torn in half. "We need to talk about your birthday dinner, Alexandra," my mother announced, her voice carrying that familiar tone of dismissal I'd grown up hearing. "We're going to have to cancel it." I looked up from the destroyed invitation, already knowing what was coming. My sister Vanessa stood beside our mother, practically vibrating with excitement in her designer dress. "But everything's already arranged," I said quietly. "The reservations, the guests." "Plans change," my mother cut in. "Your sister just got engaged and the Rosewood estate only had one date available for her dream wedding. The same weekend as your birthday dinner." Of course it was. The Rosewood estate was the most exclusive venue in the city, a sprawling mansion with perfectly manicured gardens and a waitlist that stretched for years. Getting a date there was practically impossible unless you had the right connections or enough money. "We need the money we set aside for your birthday to put down the deposit," my mother continued. "The estate requires $50,000 just to hold the date." I felt my chest tighten. The money they'd set aside for my birthday was actually mine, inheritance from my grandmother that they'd been managing for me since I turned 21. "That's my inheritance money," I said, my voice stronger than I felt. "Grandma left it specifically for me." Vanessa rolled her eyes. "Oh please, like you do anything meaningful with it. This is my wedding we're talking about, my perfect day." I looked between them, my mother's expectant face, Vanessa's entitled smirk. They had no idea that while they'd been planning my sister's fairy tale wedding, I'd been building something of my own. "The money's already gone to secure the venue," my mother added dismissively. "We're just letting you know as a courtesy." A courtesy? I almost laughed at the absurdity. They'd spent my inheritance without my permission and called it a courtesy. "You had no right," I said, standing up from the kitchen table. "That was my money." "Don't be selfish, Alexandra," my mother snapped. "Your sister deserves a perfect wedding." "What were you going to do with the money anyway? Invest in more of your little business ventures?" "Ah yes, my little business ventures." If only they knew that the silly online company they loved to mock had grown into something far more significant than they could imagine. "Fine," I said finally, picking up my bag. "Take the money. Cancel my birthday. I hope the Rosewood estate is everything you dreamed of." "That's the spirit." Vanessa beamed, completely missing my sarcasm. "I knew you'd understand. After all, it's just a birthday dinner. You can celebrate at my wedding instead." I left their house that evening with my shredded invitation and a cold determination settling in my chest. 3 years I kept my success quiet, letting them believe I was struggling while I built my empire in secret. Perhaps it was time they learned exactly what my little business ventures had become. Back in my real office, not the small rented space they thought I worked from, but the entire top floor of the city's most prestigious business tower, I pulled up the ownership documents for Blackwood Enterprises, my holding company. "Ms. Blake?" My assistant Michael appeared at the door. "I have those files you requested about the Rosewood estate." I took the folder, already knowing what I'd find inside. The Rosewood estate, like many luxury venues in the city, was actually owned by one of my shell corporations. I'd acquired it 18 months ago, along with several other high-end properties, all carefully hidden behind layers of corporate anonymity. "Have they processed the deposit yet?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. "No," Michael replied with a slight smile. "As per your standing instructions, all bookings require the owner's final approval." I nodded, thinking of my mother's smug face as she announced they'd already secured the venue. "And the ownership documents?" "Still completely confidential. They have no idea who really owns the estate." I walked to the window, looking out over the city I'd quietly conquered while my family continued to underestimate me. For years, they dismissed my ambitions, mocked my dreams, and treated me like an afterthought compared to my perfect sister. When I'd started my first company at 22, they'd laughed. Playing entrepreneur, my mother had called it. When that company succeeded and I started acquiring others, they assumed I was just getting lucky. A phase, my father had declared at dinner one night. "She'll come to her senses eventually." They never bothered to look deeper, to see that their overlooked daughter had built a billion-dollar enterprise right under their noses. Blackwood Enterprises now owns some of the most valuable properties in the city, along with controlling interests in dozens of successful companies. And tomorrow, my sister was scheduled to sign the final contract for her dream venue, a contract that would require the owner's approval. My phone buzzed with a text from Vanessa. "Don't forget, dress fitting tomorrow. As my sister, you have to be there, even if you're not in the wedding party." Right, because I wasn't good enough to be a bridesmaid in my sister's wedding, but I was expected to attend every planning event with a smile. "Michael," I called out, "schedule a meeting at the Rosewood Estate tomorrow morning. I think it's time I inspected my property." "The same time as your sister's contract signing?" "Exactly the same time." That night, as I sat in my penthouse apartment, another secret my family knew nothing about, I received a string of messages from my mother. "Don't forget to RSVP to your sister's engagement party next month. We're using your birthday budget for the flowers. Hope you understand. Your sister deserves everything perfect." I set down my phone, walking to my home office where a large portrait hung on the wall. My grandmother smiled down at me, her eyes twinkling with the same mischief I'd inherited from her. "You were right, Grandma," I said softly. "Sometimes you have to let people underestimate you until the perfect moment to show them exactly who you are." The next morning, I dressed with particular care, Channel suit, Louboutin heels, the kind of outfit I never wore around my family to maintain my image as the struggling sister. Today, I needed to look every inch the powerful CEO I'd become. My phone buzzed again. Another family group text. "Everyone meet at the Rosewood Estate at 10 a.m. sharp. Time to make Vanessa's dream wedding official." If they only knew that their perfect wedding venue, the crown jewel of their planned celebration, was about to become the stage for a very different kind of revelation. "Car's ready, Ms. Blake," Michael announced. "Everything's set at the estate." I picked up my briefcase, containing the documents that would shatter my family's carefully constructed plans. Time to show them what a little business venture really looks like. The Rosewood Estate looked exactly as I remember from when I purchased it. Elegant stone facade, meticulously maintained gardens, and an air of old-world luxury that made it the most sought-after venue in the city. My family had already arrived, gathered in the grand entrance hall. Vanessa stood in the center, wearing what I assumed was her signing an important contract outfit, while my mother fussed with her hair. Ms. Blake, Thomas, the estate manager, greeted me with a knowing smile. He was one of the few who knew my true identity as the owner. "The papers are ready in the main office." "Perfect," I replied quietly. "Let's wait until everyone's settled." I watched as my mother's eyes swept past me without recognition. The Chanel suit and professional demeanor so different from my usual carefully cultivated, struggling entrepreneur look that she didn't even realize it was me. "The owner's representative should be here any minute," the wedding coordinator was saying to my sister. "Just a formality really, signing the final contract and paying the remaining deposit." "I can't believe we got so lucky," Vanessa gushed. "A cancellation at the Rosewood. It's like fate." There had been no cancellation. I'd instructed the estate to keep this date open, knowing my sister would eventually set her sights on the venue. Vanessa had always been predictable in her desire for status symbols. "Oh, Alexandra," my mother finally noticed me. "What are you doing here, and why are you dressed like that?" "Just here for the signing," I replied calmly. Vanessa's perfect nose wrinkled. "Nobody invited you. This is my special moment." "Actually," Thomas interjected smoothly, "Ms. Blake's presence is required for this meeting." "Required?" My mother's eyes narrowed. "Why would?" She was cut off by the arrival of my father, rushing in with his phone pressed to his ear. "The money's been transferred," he announced. "Everything's ready for the signing." I checked my own phone, seeing the notification of the attempted transfer. The same transfer I'd instructed our banking department to block. "There seems to be an issue with the payment," Thomas announced, right on cue. "Perhaps we should move this discussion to the main office." The grand office of the Rosewood Estate was a testament to old money, dark wood paneling, leather-bound books, and a massive desk that I'd specially selected when renovating the space last year. My family filed in, Vanessa practically bouncing with excitement. "Now then," Thomas began, "regarding the contract." "There's a problem," I interrupted quietly. All eyes turned to me. Excuse me? My mother's voice had that dangerous edge I remember from childhood. Who do you think you are? I walked slowly to the desk, my desk, and sat down in the high-backed leather chair. I'm the owner of the Rosewood estate. The silence that followed was absolute. Vanessa's mouth fell open. My mother's face went pale. My father dropped his phone. That's impossible, Vanessa finally sputtered. The estate is owned by Blackwood Enterprises. Yes, I agreed calmly. My company. Your company. My mother's voice had risen an octave. But you run a small online business. You work from that tiny office downtown. That office is one of our satellite locations, I explained, enjoying the way their faces shifted as reality began to sink in. Blackwood Enterprises owns properties and businesses across the country, including this estate. You're lying, Vanessa accused, but her voice trembled. This is just another of your pathetic attempts to ruin my special day. I opened my laptop, turning it to face them. On the screen were all the ownership documents, property deeds, and financial records proving exactly who controlled the Rosewood estate. The contract requires the owner's approval, I continued as they stared at the evidence. And I'm afraid I can't approve it. You can't do this, my mother whispered. We already paid the deposit. You tried to pay it with my inheritance money. I corrected. The same money you took without my permission? That transfer has been blocked. My father found his voice. Why go to all this trouble? Why not just tell us? I stood up slowly, looking each of them in the eye. Would you have believed me? You've spent years mocking my business, dismissing my success, treating me like I was nothing compared to Vanessa. You stole my inheritance and canceled my birthday without even asking me. But, Vanessa's eyes were filling with tears. This is my dream venue. And it was my dream to have my family support me, believe in me, treat me with basic respect. I picked up the contract and slowly tore it in half. Dreams don't always come true, do they? Mom, Vanessa wailed. Do something. But there was nothing she could do, nothing any of them could do. The estate is booked for my birthday weekend, I announced. I'm having a party, the one you canceled. You're all welcome to attend, assuming you can handle seeing me as something other than the family failure. You're doing this for revenge, my mother accused, finding her footing. This is childish. I laughed softly. Revenge would be exposing how you illegally took my inheritance. Revenge would be pressing charges for financial fraud. This is just business. I pressed the intercom. Thomas, please escort my family out and have their deposit returned. All of it, including the money they took from my inheritance. You can't just throw us out, my father protested. We're family. Family? I stood up, my voice finally showing some emotion. Was it family when you dismissed every achievement I ever had? When you mocked my business? When you stole my money and canceled my birthday without even asking me? I walked to the door, then turned back one final time. I want you to remember this moment. Remember that the daughter you dismissed as a failure now owns the empire you could only dream of having. The next hour was a blur of tears, Vanessa, threats, my mother, and desperate attempts at negotiation, my father. But in the end, they left their perfect wedding plans in shambles. Later that evening, I stood in my office at Blackwood Enterprises, watching the sun set behind the city skyline. Michael appeared with a glass of champagne, the same expensive brand my family had probably planned to serve at Vanessa's wedding. Was it worth it? He asked quietly, all these years of hiding your success. I thought about the decades of condescension, the dismissive comments, the casual cruelty of having my birthday canceled without a thought. Then I thought about the empire I built, the thousands of employees who relied on me, the properties and businesses I transformed. It wasn't about revenge, I said finally. It was about proving that success doesn't always look the way they think it should, that you don't have to be the favorite to build something meaningful. The following year brought changes no one in my family could have predicted. Vanessa eventually had a small wedding at a local country club, hopefully having learned the value of humility. My parents, their social status diminished, stopped throwing elaborate parties. And me? I kept building, growing, expanding, not to prove anything to them anymore, but because I discovered something they never understood. True success isn't about venues or wedding dates or family approval. It's about creating something meaningful, something that lasts. These days, when people ask about my path to success, I tell them the truth. Sometimes the best response to those who underestimate you isn't to prove them wrong immediately. It's to build something so magnificent that when they finally realize their mistake, it's already too late to matter. Some people inherit their family's military legacy through generations of service. I inherited mine through marriage, specifically through my mother's marriage to General Marcus Hammond, one of the Pentagon's most influential defense contractors. I'm Alexander Carter, and until last month, I was the lead developer of Project Guardian, a next-generation defense system that could change the face of modern warfare. At least that was the plan before my stepfather decided I wasn't worthy of my own creation. The military isn't a place for hobbyists, Alex, Marcus would say during our mandatory Sunday dinners, barely concealing his disdain. Real defense systems require real experience. What Marcus never understood was that while he was busy managing his network of traditional defense contractors, I was quietly revolutionizing the entire field of autonomous defense systems. My background in quantum computing and artificial intelligence gave me a perspective his old guard military mindset couldn't grasp. Project Guardian started as a small subcontract developing basic threat detection algorithms for perimeter security. But in my private lab, buried in the basement of our research facility, I was building something far more sophisticated. Your quarterly reports are pedestrian, Marcus announced during a project review, flipping through my carefully sanitized documentation. Basic threat detection, standard response protocols. This is entry-level work. Beside him, his protagonist Colonel James Wilson smirked. James had been trying to get his hands on our contracts for years, convinced he could do better with his team at Apex Defense Solutions. Perhaps, I replied carefully, we should focus on delivering what was specifically requested. What I didn't mention was the quantum core I'd developed hidden behind layers of conventional code, or the neural network that could predict and respond to threats faster than any human operator. Some innovations are better kept quiet until they're ready to be revealed. My mother understood in her way. Marcus means well, she'd say after particularly tense family gatherings. He just wants the best for the country's defense. I know, Mom. Trust me, so do I. Everything changed during the annual Defense Innovation Summit. Marcus had gathered all his major contractors to review ongoing projects and redistribute resources as he saw fit. I knew something was wrong the moment I saw James Wilson's confident smile. Project Guardian needs stronger leadership, Marcus declared from the podium. After reviewing the current team's limited progress, I've decided to transfer primary development to Apex Defense Solutions. The room went quiet. Even in the defense industry, such a blatant display of nepotism was unusual. The existing code and infrastructure will be transferred immediately, Marcus continued. Alex, your team will assist in the transition before being reassigned to basic security protocols. You can't just, I started, but Marcus cut me off. I can, and I have. The decision is final. He smiled thinly. Perhaps this will teach you about the realities of military contracting. James didn't even try to hide his triumph as he approached me after the announcement. Don't worry, Alex. We'll take good care of your little project. Though we'll need to completely overhaul your amateur code, of course. I said nothing, thinking about the quantum core's activation protocols, about the neural network's deep learning patterns that only I fully understood, about the real Project Guardian, hidden beneath layers of seemingly basic code. Nothing to say. Marcus raised an eyebrow. I expected more protest from you. What's there to protest? I replied mildly, you've made your decision. Later that night, my mother called, upset about the contract transfer. This isn't right, Alex. Your work? It's fine, Mom, I interrupted gently. Everything's going exactly as it should. What do you mean? I smiled, thinking about the upcoming Pentagon demonstration James was so eagerly planning. Let's just say some systems are designed to recognize their true master. In exactly 3 weeks, when the Pentagon tested Project Guardian's capabilities, they would learn what real innovation looks like. And my amateur code would show them something that would change military defense forever. The history books would remember this moment, just not the way Marcus and James expected. The transition period was exactly what I expected. James Wilson's team swarmed through our facility, arrogantly fixing code they didn't understand, while Marcus supervised with smug satisfaction. Your documentation is a mess, James complained during a handover meeting. These subroutines, They're redundant, inefficient. I watched him delete entire blocks of what he thought was superfluous code that actually contained crucial quantum entanglement protocols. You're probably right, I said mildly. Lieutenant Sarah Torres, my former lead systems architect, caught my eye across the room. She'd been with me since Project Guardian's inception and was the only other person who understood what was really happening. Should we tell them about the quantum variance protocols? She whispered during a coffee break. Let them figure it out, I replied, watching James's team struggle with the basic interface. They're too busy improving everything to listen anyway. The next 2 weeks were a masterclass in technological arrogance. James's team getted what they thought was unnecessary, added their own improvements, and completely missed the quantum core hibernating beneath their conventional modifications. Marcus stopped by occasionally to oversee the transition. This is what real military development looks like, he declared, watching James's team replace my elegant quantum algorithms with brute force processing. Proper protocols, proper documentation. I received an unexpected visitor during this process, Admiral Helena Chen, the Pentagon's Director of Advanced Defense Systems. She found me in my nearly empty office, packing the last of my personal items. Interesting architecture you've built, she said without preamble. My quantum computing team spotted some unusual patterns in your base code. I kept my face neutral. The system has some unique features, like a quantum core disguised as conventional processing. Her eyes sparkled. Or a neural network that appears to be learning from its own quantum states. Finally, someone who understood. You've read the deeper code layers. Some of them, though I suspect there's more we haven't found yet. She paused. Your stepfather has no idea what he's giving away, does he? Neither does James. The Pentagon demonstration is in 6 days, she noted. They're planning to show off their improved version. I nodded. Should be interesting. She smiled slightly. I've arranged to personally oversee the testing protocols. I think we'll need proper quantum analysis equipment on hand. After she left, Sarah texted me. Wilson's team just tried to optimize the neural pathway algorithms. System accepted their changes but kept its original configuration, just like you designed it. The quantum core was doing exactly what it was supposed to do, appearing to accept conventional modifications while maintaining its true architecture. Like a digital immune system, it could recognize and preserve its essential functions regardless of surface changes. 3 days before the demonstration, James announced a complete overhaul of the threat response systems. We've streamlined everything, he boasted during the final project meeting. Removed all the amateur elements. Marcus nodded approvingly. This is what military-grade software looks like. The Pentagon will be impressed. I caught Sarah hiding a smile. She'd just run a deep system diagnostic. Every quantum protocol was still intact, every neural pathway still evolving. James's team had essentially built a conventional facade over a quantum revolution. That night, my mother called again. Alex Marcus is presenting Project Guardian to the Joint Chiefs next week. He's taking full credit for the improvements. Good, I said. Let him. But your work? Mom, remember when you taught me about patience? About waiting for the right moment? She was quiet for a moment. The system, it's not what they think it is it? No, I smiled. It's so much more. The day before the demonstration, Admiral Chen sent me a secure message. Quantum analysis equipment in place. This should be enlightening. James's team worked through the night, making last-minute adjustments to their improved version. Each change they made was like adding paint to a chameleon. The surface looked different, but the creature beneath remained unchanged, waiting for the right moment to reveal its true nature. Tomorrow, in front of the Joint Chiefs, the Pentagon's top scientists, and the military's most influential contractors, Project Guardian would show them all what real innovation looked like. And my amateur quantum core would redefine the future of national defense. The Pentagon's Advanced Defense Systems testing facility was designed to intimidate. 3 stories of reinforced concrete and ballistic glass, filled with the most sophisticated military technology in existence. Today, it would witness something unprecedented. Project Guardian represents the future of autonomous defense systems, James announced confidently to the assembled crowd of military brass and defense contractors. Marcus stood nearby, practically glowing with pride. I sat quietly in the back row between Admiral Chen and Lieutenant Torres, watching the quantum analysis displays on the Admiral's tablet. The real show was about to begin. "We've completely overhauled the original system," James continued, replacing amateur code with military-grade architecture. "Allow me to demonstrate. The first test was basic, a simulated drone attack on a protective facility. James' improved version responded exactly as a conventional system would, intercepting threats with standard protocols." "Impressive," General Roberts commented, "but hardly revolutionary." "Ah, but watch this." James pressed a button, initiating their advanced threat scenario. "We've added predictive response algorithms." That's when Project Guardian woke up. The quantum core, dormant until now, suddenly surged to life. Admiral Chen's instruments lit up with activity as the system began operating at its true capacity. "What's happening?" James frantically checked his controls as the display showed energy patterns he'd never seen before. "These readings aren't possible." "Actually," Admiral Chen stood up, "they're exactly what we've been waiting for. Ladies and gentlemen, you're witnessing the first true quantum defense system in history." On the main screen, Project Guardian was demonstrating capabilities that left the room stunned. It wasn't just predicting threats, it was anticipating them through quantum probability analysis. The neural network was processing information faster than any conventional system could comprehend. Quantum computing cores disguised as traditional processors, Admiral Chen explained. Neural networks that evolve through quantum states. This isn't just a defense system, it's a new paradigm in military technology. Marcus's face had gone pale. "But we removed all the original code." "No," I finally spoke up. "You removed what you thought was the original code. The quantum core was designed to preserve itself, to appear to accept conventional modifications while maintaining its true architecture." James was still frantically trying to control the system. "This is impossible. We rewrote everything." "Did you?" Lieutenant Torres pulled up the deep architecture displays. "Or did you just add layers of conventional code over a quantum foundation you never even knew existed?" The demonstration continued, showing capabilities that left even seasoned military officials speechless. Project Guardian could process multiple threat scenarios simultaneously through quantum superposition, adapt its strategies through quantum entanglement, and evolve its responses faster than any human operator could follow. "This changes everything," General Roberts breathed. "Our entire defense strategy will need to be completely reconsidered." Admiral Chen finished. "Fortunately, we have the original architect right here." All eyes turned to me as I walked to the front of the room. "Project Guardian was never meant to be just another defense system," I explained. "It's a quantum-native platform that learns and evolves through the fundamental properties of reality itself." The aftermath was swift and decisive. By day's end, Project Guardian was classified as a strategic military asset, with a dedicated development facility and a budget that made James' previous contract look like pocket change. Marcus found me in the hallway afterward, looking like a man who'd aged 10 years in one day. "You knew," he said quietly. "You knew all along what you built." "I tried to tell you," I replied, "but you were too busy looking for proper protocols to see real innovation." James resigned from defense contracting a week later. His team's improvements were systematically removed, revealing the quantum architecture they'd never understood. Marcus took early retirement, though rumor had it the Pentagon had strongly suggested it. Admiral Chen now heads the Quantum Defense Initiative, with Lieutenant Torres leading the technical team. Project Guardian has become the foundation for a new generation of military systems, all built on the quantum principles I quietly developed while everyone mocked my amateur work. Last month, my mother visited the new facility. "Marcus finally read your complete technical documentation," she said, watching the quantum core displays. "He said it was beyond anything he could have imagined." I smiled. Better late than never. Today, Project Guardian protects more than just military assets. It's revolutionized everything from cybersecurity to disaster response. The quantum architecture we developed has applications far beyond defense, though many of them remain classified. Yesterday, I received a letter from the Secretary of Defense, the Presidential Medal of Technology. The ceremony is next month. Marcus and James were both invited, though I doubt they'll attend. The plaque in my new office reads, "Innovation comes not from authority, but from understanding." Below it sits my old access badge from the original facility, a reminder that sometimes the greatest breakthroughs come from the people others underestimate. And sometimes the best way to protect America is to let them underestimate you just long enough to show them what real innovation looks like. The sound of my sister Rachel's words still echoed in my ears as I sat in my car outside our family home. The same house where we'd grown up, where Mom had raised us after Dad died, where everything had fallen apart in the past year. My name is Emma Mitchell, and at 29, I'd just been disowned by my family because of lies my sister had spent months carefully crafting. The irony was, I had proof that would destroy her carefully constructed narrative. I just wasn't ready to use it yet. The USB drive felt heavy in my jacket pocket, Mom's final gift to me, given in secret during one of her last lucid moments in the hospital. "Not yet, Emmy," she'd whispered, her voice weak but her eyes sharp. "Wait until you really need it. You'll know when." That was 3 weeks ago. Now Mom was gone, buried just yesterday, and Rachel had finally succeeded in what she'd been working toward for months, turning our entire family against me. I started the car, catching a glimpse of Rachel watching from the living room window. She'd always been the perfect daughter, the one who'd stayed in our hometown, married well, given Mom grandchildren. Meanwhile, I'd moved to New York, built a career in investigative journalism, lived life on my own terms. It hadn't been a problem until Mom got sick. Pancreatic cancer, aggressive, terminal from the start. I'd flown home immediately, ready to help however I could. But Rachel had other plans. "Mom needs stability right now," she'd said, her voice dripping with false concern. "Your busy life in New York, your unpredictable schedule, it's too disruptive. I'll handle her care." And so it began. Every time I tried to visit, Rachel told me Mom was too tired. When I called, Mom was always sleeping or in too much pain to talk. Slowly, surely, Rachel began spinning her web of lies. She told our aunts I was too busy with my career to care about Mom. Told our cousins I refused to help with medical bills. Told our family friends I'd abandoned Mom when she needed me most. And all the while, she controlled access to Mom so completely that I couldn't defend myself. I pulled away from the curb, memories of the past year flooding back. The desperate attempts to see Mom, the blocked phone calls, the text messages Rachel sent pretending to be Mom. Messages I later learned Mom never knew about. But what Rachel didn't know, what none of them knew, was that I'd spent those months doing what I do best, investigating, documenting, gathering evidence. Mom's nurses had been particularly helpful, especially after they witnessed Rachel's behavior firsthand. "Your sister's been intercepting your cards and letters," Maria, Mom's favorite nurse, had told me during one of my few successful hospital visits. "Your mom keeps asking why you never write." That was when I'd started keeping records, dates, times, witnesses, every instance of Rachel's interference. I'd even managed to get security camera footage from a hospital showing Rachel throwing away the care packages I sent. The USB drive shifted in my pocket as I turned onto the highway. Mom had given it to me during my last visit, just 2 days before she slipped into the coma that would claim her life. Rachel had been at her kid's soccer game, and I'd finally had a moment alone with Mom. "I know what she's been doing," Mom had said, her voice barely a whisper. Maria told me everything, but confronting her now would only make things worse. She'd pressed the small drive into my hand. "This is your insurance policy, Emmy. Use it wisely." I hadn't watched it yet. Part of me was afraid of what I'd find, but another part knew Mom was right about timing. Rachel had spent a year building her narrative, the devoted daughter caring for our dying mother while the selfish sister abandoned her family. Dismantling that story would take more than just accusations. My phone buzzed with a text from Maria. "You okay?" That scene at the house looked pretty intense. I pulled into a coffee shop parking lot to respond. Maria had become my ally throughout this ordeal, keeping me updated on Mom's condition when Rachel blocked my access, making sure Mom knew I was trying to be there. "I'm fine," I typed back. Rachel finally did it, convinced everyone I'm the villain in her story. But Mom left me something that might change everything. Maria's response was immediate. The USB drive, she told me about it, said it would show the truth when the time was right. I ordered a coffee and found a quiet corner table. My laptop was in my bag. I could watch it now, finally see what Mom had left me. But her words echoed in my mind. Wait until you really need it. Instead, I pulled out my reporter's notebook. Old habits die hard, and began writing everything down. The scene at the house today, Rachel's accusations, the family's reactions. I learned long ago that details matter, especially when you're dealing with someone who twists the truth. Rachel had been clever. I had to give her that. She'd started small, planting seeds of doubt about my character, my commitment to family. Then, as Mom got sicker, the lies grew bigger. Emma's too busy with her career to help with Mom's care. Emma refuses to contribute to the medical expenses. Emma doesn't even call or visit. Each lie built on the last, creating a picture of a heartless daughter who'd abandoned her dying mother. The fact that I'd been sending money monthly, calling daily, though Rachel usually blocked my calls, and flying home every chance I got, though Rachel usually prevented me from seeing Mom, didn't matter. Perception had become reality. My coffee grew cold as I wrote, documenting every detail of how Rachel had systematically turned our family against me. Aunt Sarah, who'd once been like a second mother to me, now couldn't look me in the eye. Cousin Mike, who'd been my best friend growing up, had blocked my number. Even our childhood neighbors, the Petersons, had turned away when they saw me at the funeral. The ultimate betrayal had come today when Rachel had gathered the family to read a letter she claimed Mom had written before she died. A letter that painted me as a heartless, selfish daughter who cared more about my career than my dying mother. I'd known immediately the letter was fake. The phrasing wasn't Mom's. The sentiments didn't match our last conversation. Even the signature was wrong. But Rachel had timed it perfectly, presenting it when emotions were raw from the funeral, when everyone was looking for someone to blame for their grief. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Maria. Just so you know, that letter Rachel read today. Your mom never wrote anything like that. I was with her those last weeks. The only thing she wrote was a note telling you she was proud of you. I smiled sadly. Maria had been there through everything, watching Rachel's manipulation with growing concern. She'd even offered to speak up, to tell the family the truth, but I'd asked her not to. Rachel would only twist it, claim Maria was lying out of loyalty to me. No, this had to be handled carefully. Mom had taught me that sometimes the best defense isn't an immediate reaction, but a carefully planned response. Patience, she'd always said, is more powerful than anger. The USB drive seemed to grow heavier in my pocket. What had Mom left me? What truth was she waiting for me to discover? Back in my hotel room, I finally sat down with my laptop and the USB drive Mom had given me. My hands trembled slightly as I plugged it in, remembering her final words about it. The truth will hurt, Emmy, but sometimes that's necessary for healing. The drive contained a single video file, dated 3 weeks before Mom died. I took a deep breath and pressed play. Mom's face filled the screen, gaunt from chemotherapy, but her eyes clear and determined. She was in her hospital room. I recognized the pale blue walls and the small window behind her. Emma, my sweet girl, she began, her voice stronger than I remember from those final days. If you're watching this, then everything has happened as I feared it would. Rachel's lies have done their work, and you're probably feeling very alone right now. I paused the video, tears blurring my vision. Even at the end, Mom had known exactly what would happen. I wiped my eyes and pressed play again. I need you to understand something, Mom continued. I know everything Rachel has been doing. The blocked calls, the hidden letters, the lies she's been telling the family. Maria has kept me informed, and I've been watching, gathering my own evidence. The screen changed, showing security footage from a hospital. There was Rachel, intercepting my care packages at the nurse's station. Another clip showed her turning me away during a visit, telling me Mom was too sick to see anyone, then letting other family members in just minutes later. But that's not the worst of it. Mom's voice continued as the video returned to her face. I've discovered something much more serious. Rachel has been stealing from me, Emma. She's been forging my signature on checks, accessing my accounts without permission. My journalist's instincts kicked in immediately. I grabbed my notebook and started taking notes as Mom detailed the financial abuse. Dates, amounts, account numbers. Mom had documented everything. I've put all the evidence in a sealed envelope with my lawyer, Richard Stevens, Mom explained. Bank statements, forged checks, everything. But I didn't want to confront her while I was sick. I knew she'd twist it somehow, use my illness to manipulate the situation. The irony was staggering. While Rachel had been painting me as the greedy, career-obsessed daughter, she'd been systematically draining Mom's accounts. "There's more," Mom continued, her expression growing more serious. "Rachel's been pressuring me to change my will, to leave everything to her. She claims you don't need the inheritance, that your success in New York means you don't deserve any help. But I've seen her bank statements, Emma. She and Tom are in serious financial trouble. The big house, the luxury cars, the lavish lifestyle, it's all built on debt." I paused the video again, remembering all the times Rachel had bragged about her perfect life. The 5-bedroom house in the best neighborhood, the expensive private schools for her kids, the fancy vacations. It had always seemed like she and Tom were living beyond their means on his middle management salary. The video continued with Mom pulling out a stack of papers. "These are copies of Rachel's credit card statements and loan documents. Maria helped me get them. Turns out Rachel's been using my hospital room to receive her financial documents, probably to hide them from Tom. They're nearly bankrupt, Emma. That's why she's been stealing from me, why she's so desperate to control my estate." The screen showed close-ups of the documents, credit card statements showing hundreds of thousands in debt, past due notices for their mortgage, collection letters from various creditors. Rachel's perfect life was a house of cards on the verge of collapse. "I've left instructions with Richard about how to handle this," Mom said. "The evidence of Rachel's theft is there if you need it. But Emma, my brave, compassionate daughter, I'm leaving the decision to you. You can use this information to clear your name, to show the family who Rachel really is. Or you can find another way." Mom's face grew softer, more tired. "I know you, Emmy. You're like your father, you believe in justice, but you also believe in mercy. Whatever you decide to do with this information, I trust you to do what's right." The video ended with Mom looking directly into the camera, her eyes filled with love and trust. "Remember, sweetheart, the truth isn't always about punishment. Sometimes it's about giving people a chance to face their own demons and find redemption." I sat in silence for a long time after the video ended, processing everything I'd learned. The USB drive contained more files, PDFs of the financial documents Mom had mentioned, photos of the forged checks, even audio recordings of Rachel pressuring Mom about the will. My phone buzzed with a text from Maria. "Did you watch it?" "Yes," I replied. "It's worse than we thought." "What are you going to do?" That was the question, wasn't it? I could take this evidence to the family right now, expose Rachel's lies and theft. It would destroy her, but it would also hurt her children, damage Tom's reputation, tear our family apart even more. Or I could do what Mom suggested, find another way. I opened my laptop again and started researching. If Rachel and Tom were really in that much debt, there had to be public records. Sure enough, I found tax liens, civil judgments, even a pending foreclosure notice on their house. The perfect life Rachel had built was about to implode, with or without my intervention. The question was whether I wanted to be the one holding the match. The next morning, I drove to Richard Stevens' law office. Mom's attorney was expecting me. She'd apparently left detailed instructions about what to do after she passed. "Emma," he greeted me warmly, leading me into his office. "I've been waiting for you to come. I assume you've watched the video." I nodded, taking a seat across from his desk. "I need your advice, Richard. Not just as Mom's lawyer, but as someone who's known our family for years." He leaned back in his chair, studying me carefully. "You're wondering whether to expose everything?" "Yes," I admitted. "Part of me wants to call a family meeting right now, show them the video, prove that Rachel's been lying. But your mother raised you better than that," he finished with a gentle smile. "She knew you'd struggle with this decision. That's why she left you this." He handed me another envelope, this one in Mom's familiar handwriting. Inside was a letter, dated just days before she slipped into the coma. "My dearest Emma, by now you know the truth about Rachel's actions. You're probably angry, hurt, and looking for justice. Those feelings are valid. You've been wronged in ways no sister should experience. But I want you to remember something about Rachel. When your father died, she was 12, old enough to understand what we'd lost but too young to process it healthily. While you found strength and independence, she developed a desperate need for control and security. I'm not excusing what she's done. The theft, the lies, the manipulation. These are serious wrongs that need to be addressed. But perhaps there's a way to do that without destroying her completely. You're an investigative journalist, Emmy. You know that sometimes the most powerful stories aren't about exposing wrongdoing. but about understanding why people do wrong and helping them find a better path. Whatever you decide, know that I trust your judgment and I'm proud of the woman you've become. All my love, Mom. I folded the letter carefully, feeling tears well up again. Even at the end, Mom had been thinking about both her daughters, trying to help us find our way back to each other. There's something else you should know, Richard said, pulling out another file. Your mother made some arrangements before she died. She knew about Rachel's financial troubles, so she set up a trust fund for her grandchildren's education. Rachel can't touch the money, it goes directly to the schools. She was protecting the kids, I realized. Yes, Richard nodded. And she left the family home to you, Emma, not to punish Rachel, but because she knew you'd do the right thing with it. I thought about our childhood home, filled with memories of happier times. Rachel's kids had practically grown up there too, spending afternoons with Mom while Rachel and Tom worked. Suddenly, I knew what I had to do. An hour later, I texted Rachel, "We need to talk. Come to Mom's house at 2. Come alone." Her response was quick and angry. "I have nothing to say to you." Then just listen. Unless you want the family to see Mom's video. At exactly 2 p.m., Rachel's car pulled into the driveway. She looked terrible, eyes red from crying, hair uncombed, nothing like her usually perfect appearance. "What video?" she demanded as soon as she walked in. "What are you trying to pull?" Wordlessly, I opened my laptop and played Mom's recording. Rachel sank onto the couch as she watched, her face draining of color as Mom detailed her theft and lies. When it ended, we sat in silence for a long moment. "Are you going to show this to everyone?" she finally asked, her voice small and broken. "That depends on you," I replied. "Mom left me the house, Rachel, and I know about the foreclosure notice on your place." She flinched. "How did you?" "I'm a journalist. Finding information is what I do." I took a deep breath. "Here's what's going to happen. You and the kids can move in here." "What?" "The house is paid for. The utilities are manageable. You can get back on your feet, work out your debt issues. But there are conditions." Rachel's eyes narrowed. "What conditions?" "First, you come clean to the family about the lies you told about me. All of them. Second, you get professional help, therapy to deal with your control issues and financial counseling to handle the debt. Third, you pay back every penny you stole from Mom's accounts. And if I refuse?" I opened another file on my laptop, the one with all the evidence of her theft. "Then I go to the police with proof of your financial fraud. Your choice." Rachel's facade finally crumbled completely. She buried her face in her hands and began to sob. Deep, racking cries that seemed to come from somewhere ancient and wounded. "I didn't mean for it to go this far," she choked out. "The debt just kept growing, and I couldn't tell Tom, and then Mom got sick." "I know," I said quietly. "Mom knew too. That's why she left us a way to fix this." Over the next few hours, we talked, really talked, for the first time in years. Rachel confessed everything. The spiral of debt that had driven her to steal, the fear and jealousy that had fueled her lies about me, the overwhelming pressure of maintaining her perfect facade. 2 days later, we called a family meeting. Rachel stood up, shaking but determined, and told the truth. There were tears, recriminations, angry questions. But there was also finally honesty. 6 months later, Rachel and the kids are settled into Mom's house. She's in therapy, working through her grief and control issues. Tom filed for divorce when he learned about the hidden debt, but the kids are doing better with a more stable, honest mother. The family is healing slowly. Some relationships may never be the same, but new ones are forming based on truth rather than pretense. Yesterday, I found Rachel in Mom's study, looking at old family photos. "Do you think she'd be proud of us?" she asked softly. "Of how we handled everything." I thought about Mom's final message about her belief in redemption over revenge. "Yes," I said. "I think this is exactly what she hoped for." The USB drive sits in my desk drawer now, a reminder that sometimes the hardest truths can lead to the most meaningful healing. Mom knew that all along. She just needed us to figure it out for ourselves.